the pork off that table. That's the advice from the Grattan Institute today, arguing that politicians should not be in control of local grant-making decisions to avoid accusations of pork barrelling. Obviously, we expect grants to be fairly distributed, but when we vote, we expect our local member of government to get the lion's share, don't we?
Well, we do. And look, I mean, this goes to this Integrity Commission. This is another thought bubble of the new government. They don't actually have a definition of what corruption is, and yet a lot of the people feeding the information to them, and the crossbench here, seem to suggest that pork barrelling should be part of an anti-corruption commission down in Canberra. Well, how do you do that? Because the electorate vote for a government. Often it's off the basis of local policies which are ridiculous, but they vote for them. Oh, we're going to give you $38,000 for a skate park. Nothing to do with the Commonwealth government, but nonetheless, they've got a mandate.
Yeah.
So how could that be considered corruption? Look, if we were to palm this off to a third party, it's just more public servants. They'll probably hire them. They'll have a new office in Canberra. We may end up with a very similar decision anyway. But the government have control of the Treasury bench and they're held accountable every 3 years. The last mob, well, I think the public had their say on how they spent a lot of the money. So democracy can work.
You're right. It actually worked. They got caught with their hands in the cookie jar and it worked. I love, it's simple, but it's factual. Now, ahead of next year's New South Wales state election, there's some new friendships being forged, Michael, between the shooters and fishers and One Nation to get rid of Nationals MPs. This will be a real coalition to be reckoned with.
Well, it will, and there's one group already in the parliament that know how this works, and that is the coalition, because often they don't run a Liberal candidate where the Nationals are strong and vice versa. They don't want to weaken the vote, and it works to their advantage. Now, the shooters and fishers and One Nation have an ideological synergy on their positions, and they're doing the same thing. But I wonder, Chris, if this also feeds into that there's a lot of people jumping off what appears to be an increasingly sinking ship here in New South Wales.
Oh, yeah.
I suspect the right, that is One Nation, shooters and others, have realised there might be a bit of an opportunity here for people who won't vote Labor, they won't vote Teal, they won't vote Green, but they're going to look for an alternative to the coalition, and this might be clever politics, I think.
Well, you've just raised something very important. We saw the Riverstone MP Kevin Connolly in New South Wales bail about a week and a half ago. Victor Dominello bailed last week. Gabriel Upton from Vaucluse bailed about a month ago. And this afternoon, we had Sports Minister Jeff Lee bail. Now, I've got to tell you, that tells me that they know they don't want to spend the next 4 to 8 years in opposition.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do because I don't think there's going to be a trade commission role for them. But other than that, some of those seats are pretty safe. And even the seat of Parramatta, I mean, you think Jeff Lee would be a shoo-in. They've got the big stadium. They've got a lot of things going on. They're huge money's poured in. It's where I grew up. I know the area pretty well. So you'd think he'd be safe. Vaucluse, for goodness sake, if they lose that, well, it'll be to a Teal. But they're obviously getting information that spending more time with the family now is a good idea. They'll be repositioning for something else after the event. Good luck to them. But you get that feeling, don't you, Chris? And it's like the federal election. Look at the map. Look at the numbers. The coalition are already in minority government. They're going to have to win some seats they don't have to try to stand a chance. They can't do it. So it's just a matter of by how much they lose or how close Labor get to forming majority government without relying on some crossbenchers. But barring a miracle, I think it's curtains for them.
Yeah, I agree. And we've called it nice and early, but it just looks that way because they've got this other drama associated with these trade postings.
Yeah.
The appointment of the London-based New South Wales Trade Commissioner, Stephen Cartwright, he had the lowest competency score of the shortlisted candidates. They're in quicksand, the Liberal government, and sinking quickly.
Yeah, look, the Labor government in the upper house, I bet they couldn't believe their luck when they decided, we'll have a little sniff around into these trade things and see what we can find. And my goodness, it's like a dog that's found the truffles under the oak tree. They can't believe their luck. But it's just another thing. Look, the stadium saga, as you know, the open line's been hot. They've stuffed that up something deluxe. Yep. I don't think the money should be spent on all the stadiums, but yeah, it's not that. It's the promise that they were going to do it, now they're not going to do it, then they were going to kind of do it, then no, they're not going to do it. And it's a mess. And all of these little things distract from what otherwise has, I think, been a reasonable government. They've certainly delivered public transport and infrastructure unlike any government I can remember over 16 years or so now. The opposition, they've got a pretty competent bloke at the top that doesn't look like a radical, and he's not too photogenic either. He's quite photogenic as well, which helps, I think. So they're looking pretty good heading into March.
You've made me pine for the days of Gladys, Michael. Michael McLaren, thank you for that.
Thanks, Chris.